Adi Parva, Section 109. Vaisampayana said, upon the birth of those three children, Guru Jangala, Kurukshetra, and the Kurus grew in prosperity. The earth began to yield abundant harvest, and the crops also were of good flavor. And the clouds began to pour rain in season, and trees became full of fruits and flowers. And the draught cattle were all happy, and the birds and other animals rejoiced exceedingly. And the flowers became fragrant, and the fruits became sweet. The cities and towns became filled with merchants, artisans, traders, and artists of every description. And the people became brave, learned, honest, and happy. And there were no robbers then, nor anybody who was sinful. And it seemed that the golden age had come upon every part of the kingdom. And the people devoted to virtuous acts, sacrifices, and truth, and regarding one another with love and affection, grew in prosperity. And free from pride, wrath, and covetousness, they rejoiced in perfectly innocent sports. And the capital of the Kurus, full as the ocean, was a second Amaravati, teeming with hundreds of palaces and mansions, and possessing gates and arches dark as the clouds. And men in great cheerfulness sported constantly on rivers, lakes, and tanks, and in fine groves and charming woods. And the southern Kurus, in their virtuous rivalry with their northern kinsmen, walked about in the company of siddhas and charanas and rishis. And all over that delightful country, whose prosperity was thus increased by the Kurus, there were no misers and no widowed women. And the wells and lakes were ever full. The groves abounded with trees, and the houses and abodes of brahmanas were full of wealth, and the whole kingdom was full of festivities. And, O king, virtuously ruled by Bhishma, the kingdom was adorned with hundreds of sacrificial stakes. And the wheel of virtue, having been set in motion by Bhishma, and the country became so contented that the subjects of other kingdoms, quitting their homes, came to dwell there and increase its population. And the citizens and the people were filled with hope upon seeing the youthful acts of their illustrious princes. And, O king, in the house of the Kuru chiefs, as also of the principal citizens, give, eat, were the only words constantly heard. And Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, of great intelligence, were from their birth brought up by Bhishma, as if they were his own sons. And the children, having passed through the usual rites of their order, devoted themselves to vows and study. And they grew up into fine young men, skilled in the Vedas and all athletic sports. And they became well skilled in the practice of bow, in horsemanship, in encounters with mace, sword, and shield, in the management of elephants in battle, and in the science of morality. Well read in history and the Puranas, and various branches of learning, and acquainted with the truths of the Vedas and their branches, they acquired knowledge which was versatile and deep. And Pandu, possessed of great prowess, excelled all men in archery, while Dhritarashtra excelled all in personal strength, while in the three worlds there was no one equal to Vidura in devotion to truth and virtue, and in the knowledge of the dictates of morality. And beholding the restoration of the extinct line of Shantanu, the saying became current in all countries that among mothers of heroes, the daughters of the king of Kashi were the first. Among countries, Guru Jangala was the first. That among virtuous men, Vidura was the first. That among cities, Hastinapur was the first. Pandu became king, for Dhritarashtra owing to blindness, and Vidura, for his birth by a Shudra woman, did not obtain the kingdom. One day, Bhishma, the foremost of those acquainted with the duties of a statesman and dictates of morality, properly addressing Vidura, conversant with the truth of religion and virtue, said as follows. Section 110. Bhishma said, "This, our celebrated race, resplendent with every virtue and accomplishment, hath all along sovereignty over all other monarchs on earth. Its glory maintained and itself perpetuated by many virtuous and illustrious monarchs of old, the illustrious Krishna Dvaipayana and Satyavati, and myself, having raised you three up, in order that it may not be extinct. It behoveth myself and thee also to take such steps that this our dynasty may expand again as the sea. It hath been heard by me that there are 3 maidens worthy of being allied to our race. One is the daughter of Surasena of the Yadava race. The other is the daughter of Suvala, and the third is the princess of Madra. O son, all these maidens are of course of blue blood. Possessed of beauty and pure blood, they are eminently fit for an alliance with our family. O thou foremost of intelligent men, I think we should choose them for the growth of our race. Tell me what thou thinkest." Thus addressed, Vidura replied, "Thou art our father, and thou art our mother too. Thou art our respected spiritual instructor. Therefore, do thou what may be best for us in thy eyes." Vaisampayana continued. Soon after Bhishma heard from the Brahmanas that Gandhari, the amiable daughter of Suvala, having worshipped Hara, or Shiva, had obtained from the deity the boon that she should have a century of sons. Bhishma, the grandfather of the Kurus, having heard this, sent messengers unto the king of Gandhara. King Suvala at first hesitated on account of the blindness of the bridegroom, but taking into consideration the blood of the Kurus, their fame and behavior, he gave his virtuous daughter unto Dhritarashtra, and the chaste Gandhari, hearing that Dhritarashtra was blind and that her parents had consented to marry her to him, from love and respect for her future husband, blindfolded her own eyes. Shakuni, the son of Suvala, bringing unto the Kurus his sister endued with youth and beauty, formally gave her away unto Dhritarashtra. And Gandhari was received with great respect, and the nuptials were celebrated with great pomp under Bhishma's directions. And the heroic Shakuni, after having bestowed his daughter along with many valuable robes, and having received Bhishma's adorations, returned to his own city. And, O thou of Bharat's race, the beautiful Gandhari gratified all the Kurus by her behavior and respectful attentions. And Gandhari, ever devoted to her husband, gratified her superiors by her good conduct. And as she was chaste, she never referred, even by words, to men other than her husband or such superiors. Section 111. Vaisampayana continued. There was, amongst the Yadavas, a chief named Sura. He was the father of Vasudeva, and he had a daughter called Pritha, who was unrivaled for beauty on earth. And, O thou of Bharata's race, Sura, always truthful in speech, gave from friendship this his firstborn daughter unto his childless cousin and friend, the illustrious Kuntibhoja, the son of his paternal aunt, pursuant to a former promise. And Pritha, in the house of her adoptive father, was engaged in looking after the duties of hospitality to brahmanas and other guests. Once she gratified by her attentions the terrible brahmana of rigid vows, who was known by the name of Durvasa, and was well acquainted with the hidden truths of morality. Gratified with her respectful attentions, the sage, anticipating by his spiritual power the future season of distress consequent upon the curse to be pronounced upon Pandu for his unrighteous act of slaying a deer while serving its mate, imparted to her a formula of invocation for summoning any of the celestials she liked to give her children. And the rishi said, Those celestials that thou shalt summon by this mantra shall certainly approach thee and give thee children. Thus addressed by the Brahmana, the amiable Kunti, or Pritha, became curious, and in her maidenhood summoned the god Arka, or the sun. And as soon as he pronounced the mantra, she beheld the effulgent deity, that beholder of everything in the world, approaching her. And beholding that extraordinary sight, the maiden of faultless features was overcome with surprise. But the god Vivaswat, or the sun, approaching her, said, Here I am, O black-eyed girl. Tell me what I am to do for thee. Hearing this, Kunti said, O slayer of foes, a certain Brahmana gave me this formula of invocation as a boon, and, O Lord, I have summoned thee only to test its efficacy. For this offense I bow to thee. A woman, whatever her offense, always deserveth pardon. Surya, or the sun, replied, I know that Durvasa hath granted this boon. But cast off thy fears, timid maiden, and grant me thy embraces. Amiable one, my approach cannot be futile. It must bear fruit. Thou hast summoned me, and if it be for nothing, it shall certainly be regarded as thy transgression. Vaisampayana continued. Vivasvat thus spoke unto her many things with a view to allay her fears. But, O Bharata, the amiable maiden, for modesty and fear of her relatives, consented not to grant his request. And, O bull of Bharata's race, Arka addressed her again and said, O princess, for my sake it shall not be sinful for thee to grant my wish. Thus speaking unto the daughter of Kuntibhoja, the illustrious Tapana, the illuminator of the universe, gratified his wish. And of this connection there was immediately born a son, known all over the world as Karna, accounted with natural armor and with face brightened by earrings. And the heroic Karna was the first of all wielders of weapons, blessed with good fortune and endued with the beauty of a celestial child. And after having birthed this child, the illustrious Tapana granted unto Pritha her maidenhood and ascended to heaven. And the princess of the Vrishni race, beholding with sorrow the son born of her, reflected intently upon what was then best for her to do. And from fear of her relatives, she resolved to conceal the evidence of her folly. And she cast off her offspring, endued with great physical strength, into the water. Then the well-known husband of Radha, of the Sutta caste, took up the child thus cast into the water, and he and his wife brought him up as their own son. And Radha and her husband bestowed on him the name of Vasusena, or born with wealth, because he was born with a natural armor and earrings. And endued as he was, born with great strength, as he grew up, he became skilled in all weapons. Possessed of great energy, he used to adore the sun until his back was heated by his rays from the dawn to midday. And during the hours of worship, there was nothing on earth that the heroic and intelligent Vasusena would not give unto the Brahmanas. And Indra, desirous of benefiting his own son, Falguni, or Arjuna, assuming the form of a Brahmana, approached Vasusena on one occasion and begged of him his natural armor. Thus asked, Karna took off his natural armor, and joining his hands in reverence, gave it unto Indra in the guise of a Brahmana. And the chief of the celestials accepted the gift and was exceedingly gratified with Karna's liberality. He therefore gave unto him a fine dart, saying, This one, and one only, among the celestials, the Asuras, men, the Gandharvas, the Nagas, and the Rakshasas, whom thou desirest to conquer, shall certainly slain with this dart. The son of Surya was before this known by the name of Vasusena, but since he cut off his natural armor, he came to be called Karna, or the cutter or peeler of his own cover. Section 112. Vaisampayana said, The large-eyed daughter of Kunti Bhoja, Pritha by name, was endued with beauty and every accomplishment. Of rigid vows, she was devoted to virtue and possessed of every good quality. But though endued with beauty and youth and every womanly attribute, yet it so happened that no king asked for her hand. Her father, Kunti Bhoja, seeing this, invited, O best of monarchs, the princes and kings of other countries, and desired his daughter to select her husband from among her guests. The intelligent Kunti, entering the amphitheater, beheld Pandu, the foremost of the Bharatas, that tiger among kings in that concourse of crowned heads. Proud as the lion, broad-chested, bull-eyed, endued with great strength and outshining all other monarchs in splendor, he looked like another Indra in that royal assemblage. The amiable daughter of Kunti Bhoja, of faultless features, beholding Pandu, that best of men in that assembly, became very much agitated, and advancing with modesty, all the while quivering with emotion, she placed the nuptial garland around Pandu's neck. The other monarchs, seeing Kunti choose Pandu for her lord, returned to their respective kingdoms on elephants, horses, and cars as they came. Then, O king, the bride's father caused the nuptial rites to be performed duly. The Kuru prince, blessed with great good fortune, and the daughter of Kunti Bhoja formed a couple like Maghavat and Polomi, the king and queen of the celestials. And, O best of Kuru monarchs, King Kunti Bhoja, after the nuptials were over, presented his son-in-law with much wealth and sent him back to his capital. Then the Kuru prince Pandu, accompanied by a large force bearing various kinds of banners and pennons, and eulogized by brahmanas and great rishis pronouncing benedictions, reached his capital, and after arriving at his own palace, he established his queen therein. Section 113. Vaisampayana continued. Sometime after, Bhishma, the intelligent son of Shantanu, set his heart upon getting Pandu married to a second wife. Accompanied by an army composed of 4 kinds of forces, and also by aged counselors and brahmanas and great rishis, he went to the capital of the king of Madra. And that bull of the Valhikas, the king of Madra, hearing that Bhishma had arrived, went out to receive him. And having received him with respect, he got him to enter his palace. Arriving there, the king of Madra offered unto Bhishma a white carpet for a seat, water to wash his feet with, and the usual oblation of various ingredients indicative of respect. And when he was seated at ease, the king asked him about the reason of his visit. Then Bhishma, the supporter of the dignity of the Kurus, addressed the king of Madra and said, O oppressor of all foes, know that I have come for the hand of a maiden. It hath been heard by us that thou hast a sister named Madri, celebrated for her beauty and endued with every virtue. I would choose her for Pandu. Thou art, O king, in every respect worthy of an alliance with us, and we are also worthy of thee. Reflecting upon all this, O king of Madra, accept us duly. The ruler of Madra, thus addressed by Bhishma, said, To my mind, there is none else than one of thy family with whom I can enter into an alliance. But there is a custom in our family observed by our ancestors, which, be it good or bad, I am incapable of transgressing. It is well known, and therefore is known to thee as well, I doubt not. Therefore, it is not proper for thee to say to me, bestow thy sister. The custom to which I allude is our family custom. With us, that is a virtue and a worthy of observance. It is for this only, O slayer of foes, I cannot give thee any assurance in the matter of thy request. On hearing this, Bhishma answered the king of Madra, saying, O king, this no doubt is a virtue. The self-create himself hath said it. Thy ancestors were observant of custom. There is no fault to find with it. It is also well known, O Shalya, that this custom in respect of family dignity hath the approval of the wise and the good. Saying this, Bhishma of great energy gave unto Shalya much gold, both coined and uncoined, and precious stones of various colors by thousands, and elephants and horses and cars, and much cloth and many ornaments, and gems and pearls and corals. And Shalya, accepting with a cheerful heart those precious gifts, then gave away his sister, decked in ornaments, unto the bull of the Kuru race. Then the wise Bhishma, the son of the ocean-going Ganga, rejoiced at the issue of his mission, took Madri with him, and returned to the Kuru capital named after the elephant. Then, selecting an auspicious day and moment as indicated by the wise for the ceremony, King Pandu was duly united with Madri. And after the nuptials were over, the Kuru king established his beautiful bride in handsome apartments. And, O King of Kings, the best of monarchs then gave himself up to enjoyment in the company of his two wives as best he liked and to the limit of his desires. And after 30 days had elapsed, the Kuru king, O monarch, started from his capital for the conquest of the world. And after reverentially saluting and bowing to Bhishma and the other elders of the Kuru race, and with adieus to Dhritarashtra and others of the family, and obtaining their leave, he set out on his grand campaign, accompanied by a large force of elephants, horses, and cars, and well pleased with the blessings uttered by all around, and the auspicious rites performed by the citizens for his success. And Pandu, accompanied by such a strong force, marched against various foes. And that tiger among men, that spreader of the fame of the Kurus, first subjugated the robber tribes of Asarna. He next turned his army, composed of innumerable elephants, cavalry, infantry, and charioteers, with standards of various colors, against Dirga, the ruler of the kingdom of Magadha, who was proud of his strength and offended against numerous monarchs. And attacking him in his capital, Pandu slew him there, and took everything in his treasury, and also vehicles and draught animals without number. He then marched into Mithila and subjugated the Videhas. And then, O bull among men, Pandu led his army against Kashi, Sumbha, and Pundra, and by the force and strength and prowess of his arms spread the fame of the Kurus. And Pandu, that oppressor of foes, like unto a mighty fire whose far-reaching flames were presented by his arrows and splendor by his weapons, began to consume all kings that came in contact with him. These, with their forces, vanquished by Pandu at the head of his army, were made the vassals of the Kurus. And all the kings of the world, thus vanquished by him, regarded him as the one single hero on earth, even as the celestials regard Indra in heaven. And the kings that came in contact with him, these with their forces, vanquished by Pandu at the head of his army, were made the vassals of the Kurus. And the kings of earth, with joined palms, bowed unto him and waited on him with presents of various kinds of gems and wealth, precious stones, and pearls and corals, and much gold and silver, and fine class kine, and handsome horses, and fine cars and elephants, and asses, and camels and buffaloes, and goats and sheep, and blankets and beautiful hides, and cloths woven out of furs. And the king of Hastinapura, accepting those offerings, retraced his steps towards his capital, to the great delight of his subjects. And the citizens and others filled with joy, and kings and ministers all began to say, "Oh, the fame of the achievements of Shantanu, that tiger among kings, and of the wise Bharata, which were all about to die, hath been revived by Pandu. They who robbed before the Kurus of both territory and wealth have been subjugated by Pandu, the tiger of Hastinapur, and made to pay tribute." And all the citizens, with Bhishma at their head, went out to receive the virtuous king, the victorious king. They had not proceeded far when they saw the attendants of the king laden with much wealth, and the train of various conveyances laden with all kinds of wealth, and of elephants, horses, cars, kine, camels, and other animals, was so long that they saw not its end. Then Pandu, beholding Bhishma, who was a father to him, worshipped his feet, and saluted the citizens and others as each deserved. And Bhishma too, embracing Pandu as his son, who had returned victorious after grinding many hostile kingdoms, wept tears of joy. And Pandu, instilling joy into the hearts of his people with a flourish of trumpets and conches and kettle drums, entered his capital. Section 114. Vaisampayana said, Pandu then, at the command of Dhritarashtra, offered the wealth he had acquired by the prowess of his arms to Bhishma, their grandmother Satyavati, and other mothers. And he set portion of his wealth to Vidura also. And the virtuous Pandu gratified his other relatives also with similar presents. Then Satyavati and Bhishma and the Koshala princes were all gratified with presents Pandu made out of the acquisitions of his prowess. And Ambalika, in particular, upon embracing her son of incomparable prowess, became as glad as the Queen of Heaven upon embracing Jayanta. And with the wealth acquired by that hero, Dhritarashtra performed 5 great sacrifices that were equal unto 100 great horse sacrifices, at all of which the offerings to Brahmanas were by hundreds and thousands. A little while after, O bull of Bharat's race, Pandu, who had achieved a victory over sloth and lethargy, accompanied by his 2 wives, Kunti and Madri, retired into the woods. Leaving his excellent palace with its luxurious beds, he became a permanent inhabitant of the woods, devoting the whole of his time to the chase of the deer. And fixing his abode in a delightful and hilly region, overgrown with huge sala trees, on the southern slope of the Himavat mountains, he roamed about in perfect freedom. The handsome Pandu, with his 2 wives, wandered in those woods like Airavata, accompanied by 2 she-elephants. And the dwellers in those woods, beholding the heroic Bharata prince in the company of his wives, armed with sword, arrows, and bow, clad in his beautiful armor, and skilled in all excellent weapons, regarded him as the very god wandering amongst them. And at the command of Dhritarashtra, people were busy in supplying Pandu in his retirement with every object of pleasure and enjoyment. Meanwhile, the son of the ocean-going Ganga heard that the king Devaka had a daughter endued with youth and beauty and begotten upon a Shudra wife. Bringing her from her father's home, Bhishma married her to Vidura of great wisdom, and Vidura begot upon her many children like unto himself in accomplishments. Hare Krishna.